Welcome to Mortified, the Friendship Quest, a podcast where two long-distance friends bounce media recommendations, all in hopes the other will like it. I'm Aaron.
And I'm a mushroom.
And this week, we ride our bouncing brooms to a magic school with the 2017 anime Little Witch Academia. Before me and Leyla have another fight about sad rich kids, remember you can help us on Mortified the Legitimacy Quest by subscribing to us on YouTube, iTunes, or Spotify, signing up for a monthly newsletter, which does come out this week, new newsletter this week, so hit us up through the link in our show notes, or following us on Twitter and Tumblr at MortifiedPod. Leyla.
Aaron.
You remember our friends at Studio Trigger?
I think about them daily.
Famously, the first episode of this podcast was a Studio Trigger property, Kill la Kill. Mm-hmm. And we've come so far. We've covered several other Trigger properties, namely Brand New Animal, but also we constantly reference the hit Promare, which came out in 2019. God, it's been such a long 3 years. And we decided we were gonna revisit one of their earlier projects. Which is the 2017 anime Little Witch Academia. I will just want to give listeners kind of an idea of what's going on. If they gave out purple hearts for podcasting, me and Leyla are eligible for them. So go ahead and forward this to the podcasting awards department. All right. For the record, I've had 1 hour of sleep in the past 48 hours. So I'm not doing great. So bear with us. This is going to be a little bit of an energy, but I am very, very excited to talk about Studio Trigger and Little Witch.
Yeah, I've done about 8 hours of physical and emotional labor today, so I'm also going to be bringing an energy to the program. I don't think we're going to be fighting very much about this sad rich boy.
Oh, okay. Excellent. Good. I'm glad that you've come around to the fuck Andrew club, but we will get there.
We will. All right. So Little Witch Academia, 2017 Trigger property. It is about Akko, a little angel who I would die for, and how she goes to witch school because she wants to be just like her hero, Shiny Chariot, who is a witch, but she's also an entertainer. And she just wants to make people happy. And she's at this school with her roommates, Susie and Lotte, which Aaron and I are both Team Lotte.
Absolutely.
Best character. And they go through various adventures. Each episode is pretty much self-contained. There's the one overarching plot is that when Akko gets Shiny Chariot's old wand, the Shiny Rod, there's basically 7 gemstones that she has to activate. She doesn't know she has to activate them, but she keeps intuitively stumbling upon these 7 forgotten magic phrases, and by the end of season 1, she has, I think, unlocked 3 of 7. But yeah, there's hijinks, there's a snooty rich girl, there's Amanda, the American lesbian. I don't know if she's supposed to be American, but she feels
she is American.
Okay, great.
I looked up their nationalities. She's 100% an American.
Yeah, Amanda O'Neill, and she's got Yu-Gi-Oh ass anime hair. I love her so much.
She's Yugi's cousin from the United States. She's Bandit Keith's stepdaughter.
She looks like Bandit Keith's stepdaughter. Yeah. So, but otherwise, yeah. And then there's hijinks with teachers and such. It's very cute. It's very cute. So we should talk about our characters. We can start with my baby Akko, my sweet baby, my angel Akko.
Akko's great. I mean, you know me and Leyla at this point, y'all. She's an anime protagonist. She's stupid. She believes in herself, and she believes in her friends. Her friends are her power, and her belief in her magic is her power. Literally, the first line of the entire show is believe in yourself. That is your magic, and that's all you need to know about Akko. the main thing that that you have to know about Akko is that like she goes to this witch school. She's not from a prestigious magic family. Like basically everybody else that in her school is from some sort of like lineage of former witches. And like so it's weird that Akko is allowed to come to this school, especially because it doesn't seem like she has magic. Like the whole first episode is like her not being able to fly a broom and not being able to cast spells. But like, right in the middle of it, right? Like right at the end, she like recovers this wand, this shiny rod, which like, it's shiny rod. We get it. It's a penis thing. But, like it's, like she is able to wield this wand, and, we know that she can do magic because she does magic in the first episode, and like, she does this big thing. She's able to escape from this fucking cool cockatrice. I love the cockatrice. And like we get that she can do magic, and like she hangs out with her friends, and like that's her whole deal. She's an anime protagonist. She's great, and she's stupid. And that's my favorite part about her is that she's stupid. But like that's, she's an anime protagonist. She's a Naruto. She's a Monkey D. Luffy. I
think she's definitely extremely a Naruto because she does like suck at school.
Exactly. Yeah, she is extremely that. Like tries very hard. I think she probably tries a lot harder than Naruto, to be fair. But like, listen, that boy's never studied a day in his life, until Shippuden. But we can't get into Naruto again. But yeah, no, I really like Akko. We'll talk about my frustrations with Akko's character arc in the first season. But do you have anything else to add? Before?
No, I would lay down on straight tracks for her.
No, like I think we like probably like my favorite moment of characterization of her, that like I can think of right now is like there's a point where like her friends are trapped by a dragon, and like she's like, okay, this dragon is like 100 stories tall. I'm like a flea to him, and just like immediately like she sees her friends in danger and she just like flings herself at him, and the dragon like immediately stops her. Like there's no way she was gonna like defeat this dragon by herself, but like she flings herself. There's also another instance where there's like a warning sign, like an ancient ruin that says like keep out. The secret of the north, the Big Dipper is behind this door, and then like the guy she's with is like, oh, that means we should probably stay far away from this place, and then immediately afterwards she crashes through the warning sign. It's like, yeah, that's Akko.
I think my favorite thing about her is she does everything out of spite. So like you brought up the we'll get into Andrew, but like she goes to like she had no interest to attending this party until these 3 girls came out of the car, pulled over specifically to bully her, and they're like, ooh, you can't go to the party, you're too poor. And Akko was like, you want to bet? And no interest in the party, goes anyway. And then at the party, like, tells the rich boy off out of spite. She says she's gonna be the Moonlit Witch at the Samhain Festival out of spite. Like everything she does, even the dragon thing, like she leaps into this dragon's hand and this dragon catches her, and she's like, oh my god, please don't eat me, I'm not very tasty at all. And he's like, yeah, you'd barely be a snack, you don't look like you taste good at all. She goes, actually, fuck you, I'm delicious.
Yes, that was another great moment.
I respect that so much.
Yeah. That's our protagonist.
That's Akko. That's my baby. My other baby, Lotte.
Lotte fucking owns. All right, Lotte Janssen. She's Finnish. I looked this up. It is her whole deal is like she's pretty content being a side character. Like her motivations are pretty humble. Like she comes from a family who owns like a magic item repair shop, I believe. And like her whole deal is like she just wants to go to school to help like learn the craft and be able to like keep up her family business. But like there's this bit in the 4th episode, which is like one of my favorites actually, where essentially she goes to meet Fantasy Stephanie Meyer, and Fantasy Stephanie Meyer like hands her a pen and she's like, okay, great, you write novel 366 of they call it, what do they call it? What's the episode name? It's not New Moon, because actually New Moon is the name of their school. It's Luna Nova, which is very good. It's called Nightfall. But like it is explicitly stylized as a Twilight thing.
Yeah, like the font is Twilight font.
Yeah, but like it's like basically Doctor Who meets Twilight. And like she basically gets the opportunity to become the author of this series. And she explains, like, I don't want to do that. Like she has to explain this to Akko, because Akko's whole deal is that she idolizes Shiny Chariot, right? The person whose wand she found. But she's like, I don't want to do the thing that my idol does. I'm completely fine, like, benefiting from, their product. And, like, if I wrote the story, then, like, I would know what's happening. It would spoil the surprise for me, and I would hate that. And, like, that's such a very interesting thing. And, like, in anime, right, I love to see when somebody's like, no, you don't, we get idols a lot. Again, to go back to the show that must not be named, right, Naruto is so wants to be like the fourth Hokage. Right, we get our, like, Monkey D. Luffy wants to be like the man with the hat, in the first episode, red hair man, I don't know. But, like, everybody wants an idol, right, in anime, and I love that Lotte's whole deal is like, no, I'm fine being a normie and, like, just benefiting from other people. And, like, Lotte is also the only good friend in this show, I think. Yes. Lotte needs better roommates, because, like, I love Akko, but she's a disaster.
Yeah. I also, like, I think one of my favorite episodes is the one where they go to the party, like, they break into the bee affection. Which,
yes.
How dare they not call that bee mine?
Yeah, come on.
How dare they? The pun is right there. But, in it, the Cupid bee stings 4 boys, and all of them fall in love with Lotte, and then, the Akko smashes the bee and the spell breaks. And Lotte, she's sad about it, but she's not like, she's just like, no, well, whatever. And my boy Frank, my sweet boy Frank, my angel Frank, my perfect son, is immediately like, we should go on a date. And I was like, yes, this is the matchup I want. I want them together. They're both the only decent people with brain cells in this entire program. And you know what Lotte does? She goes, hey, we don't know each other. Maybe we should be friends first. I was like, you are an angel.
Lotte kicks ass. Like, yeah, Frank is a little bit of a fuckboy. But, like, you know what? I think Lotte can fix him, is what I'm trying to say.
That's fair. I love Frank. Frank's... He's such a good compliment to Andrew, who we'll get to in a second. You don't like Susie very much.
So this is a thing that we'll talk about later in our talking points, but, like, Susie is not a good friend. Like, one, she starts the show by trying to kill both Lotte and Akko by putting them in a trap, and then making her say in the cockatrice language, yo, fuck cockatrices, basically, like, saying cockatrice slurs. And then the cockatrice is like, hey, what the fuck? And, tries to kill them. While she, like, collects the feathers. I was like, okay, that's not great. And, like, basically the whole show, like, kind of has her, like, being like, oh, well, Akko's so stupid, and, like, oh, Akko's, a pain in the ass, she doesn't know when to quit. I really wanted, there's an episode where they go into her mind, like, they do the thing that I immediately was like, oh, this is a thing that happened in Teen Titans. And I don't want to say that, like, oh, they copied off Teen Titans, because I think, if you're going to do a TV show, you could probably do an episode where you go into the interiority of a character that is, like, famously, snarky and closed off, and, like, see what their interiority is like. I think that's interesting. And, like, if you, do it in a fairly novel way, it's fine. Right. I'm sure Teen Titans is the first one, but it's the one that touchstones me. But, like, they go into her interiority, and, like, they don't get any, it is too, they give her too many facets. Right. Basically, they give her good conscience and her bad conscience, both of which want to murder Akko, which is like, all right, okay. But, like, the rest of that is just, like, her like, various, like, thousands of personalities, and it's a very weird episode that I did not like. But, like if you're gonna give, one of your side characters an episode fully devoted to them, I really wanted to see more interiority and more about their motivations. And, like, basically, her whole motivation is, like, find cool poison mushrooms. And, like, that's fine, but I really wanted something more, and maybe that's my fault for expecting more, and, like, being, like, not understanding, like, the joke is that, like, yeah, Susie like kind of like is mean to Akko, but like it's in a joking, like they love each other way. But like I could never get there. How did you feel about Susie?
I actually love Susie. I think she's
okay.
her vibes are fucking immaculate. But I think and you even wrote this in your notes. I think I went into this show because we both tried to watch it once upon a time and both dropped off for various reasons. But I remembered how like cartoony kids show this was, and so like I really wasn't like bothered by the like murder. Like it all seemed very cartoony for me, and so like my favorite Susie moment is so at the festival they draw sacrifice duty, like they have to get eaten and excreted by a ghost, and Lotte is just like, oh, fucking fine, whatever, and Akko's like, this is humiliating, I told you guys not to let me pick the lot, I always have bad luck. And Susie is like, actually, I'm excited.
I want to get shitted out by this ghost.
And like at one point they're inside the ghost and they're just like rolling through its like ghost intestines, and Akko and Lotte they're just horrified. They don't want to be there. Susie's face kills me. She's just grinning. She's like, hell yeah. Moving through this ghost esophagus. I didn't like this episode that you were just talking about. Like, I hate Wonderland shit. However, it is the second time the other show that must not be named gets referenced, Neon Genesis Evangelion, which the first time it gets referenced is actually in the Twilight episode with Lotte, because Lotte does the Gendo Ikari pose. And Aaron has a screenshot of that. We'll put it on the Twitter. But, like, the second time is in Susie in Wonderland, and it's when the sky turns red and there's, like, that huge creature. That's, like, that... I looked at that once. I was like, this is the huge Evangelion vibes.
And, like, the guy who made this, Yo Yoshinari, like, worked on the original Eva. Like, he's from that back then. Like, he was a key animator on Eva.
So Eva comes from Gainax, and there's a ton of Gainax alumni at Trigger. So like,
okay,
nobody should be surprised by this. But yeah, I love Susie. You also don't like Ursula very much.
I think Ursula is an adult and should take care of her fucking... She invented the guidance counselor role for herself. It made it her personal goal to protect sweet Akko. And, like, listen, again, this is me, like, not fully engaging with the cartoonishness of this show, which I think is really, truly a personal problem. But, like, there's a bit where, like... It's really funny, actually. Like, Akko is like, oh no, I've been failing all my classes, because, like, her whole thing is that she can't do magic. And she's like, oh, but I have this one class. It's, like, philosophies of magic. And, like, it's a really easy class. Like, I don't... Like, you just stare at a goldfish all day. And then, like, everybody, like, looks at her, and they're like, are you talking about our professor? Professor Pisces. It's Professor Pisces. And, like, the whole goof is that, like, Akko's been showing up to class and just being like, so we're supposed to watch this fish. And, like, she ends up nearly murdering this fish lady, and, like, she redeems herself. It's fine. But, like, one of the students explains, like, oh, you know, I'm, like, you know, a master level in fish language. Like, they only let, like, students that are, like, highly trained in fish language take this course. And I was like, I cannot, like, your guidance counselor couldn't tell you, like, hey, don't sign up for this course. Like, come the fuck on. Like, listen, it's no wonder fucking Luna Nova's crumbling. Their academic infrastructure is just terrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I just feel like there were times where Ursula could have stood up more for Lotte, or not Lotte. I keep thinking Lotte is the protagonist. She should
be the protagonist of something.
Yeah, no, I want the Lotte spinoff, but for Akko, I feel like there were moments where she could have, like, stood up a little bit more for Akko. But again, like, this is a much more cartoony, and we'll talk about who we think it's for in a bit. But, like, I do think that, like, a lot of this stuff could be hand waved, and I am nitpicking in a way that I'm not proud of. So, like, I don't want it to come across as, like, I don't like it. It's just, like, I am used to engaging with a media that is not for a younger audience.
Right.
Despite our hour-long treatise on Alpha and Omega last week.
Well, arguably Alpha and Omega is not for children.
Actually, that's true.
It is a giant sex metaphor. So yeah, I mean, okay, so Ursula is also Shiny Chariot. She is Shiny Chariot. And you get a glimpse of that in the episode where we briefly mentioned it earlier, but when Akko ends up at the Fountain of Polaris, and she busts down that door with a bear behind it. Ursula saves them, and you see her hair turning from red to blue for just a couple of frames, and you go, what? And then later you start to notice that she is straight up Shiny Chariot. She's very cartoonish. I respect it only because she is clearly a lady in her 20s that has no idea what's going on and has to pretend she knows what's going on, and I get it.
Hold on, wait, yeah, I gotta look up her age real quick because that would actually change my entire opinion because the girls, Akko is 16, Ursula, I got the Little Witch Academia wiki up, her age is it's not listed. Fuck.
I mean, she reads as in her early 20s.
I was gonna say no, she extremely reads like somebody. We know that she disappeared 10 years ago. From when the story takes place. So when Akko was 6, I guess. But she does extremely read as somebody in their early to mid 20s, which I don't know, but it is very much I don't know what I'm doing. I have some level of competence, but I don't have the confidence behind it yet. And there's some season 2 stuff that kind of explains, what's going on there that we won't talk about. But yeah, very, very chaotic energy around Ursula.
Yeah, I do love her though. So Diana, I love to hate because Diana's personality sucks, but she's so extremely competent in a very not a fake way. Sometimes people will write these bitchy characters and they're actually useless. Diana is actually useful. She's the only one who can read the dragon contract. She ace attorneys the shit out of the dragon finance bro. She runs the Samhain festival. She is genuinely just a rich, reclusive, obsessive student of magic, and her personality sucks shit because she's pretentious, but she's also not a lot of people write a rich character, they're perfect, right? Perfect hair, they're charming and friendly, and they have so many friends, and they're at least are popular in some way. She's popular, but she doesn't have many friends. She's not friendly. People just come to her because she's competent. And kind of takes no shit. So people admire her, but they're not necessarily her friends. And I think the end of season 1 kind of gets into the fact that she's a little bit not jealous of Akko, but she's almost fascinated by how her friends relate to her. And she almost doesn't understand how Akko can find success in any way, shape, or form through anything but studying. And I every time she's on screen, I'm oh my god, it's Diana again. But she always has reason to be there, and you have to be god damn it, we needed you, Diana, which I respect.
No, I like Diana a lot. Diana, it might be my second favorite character in this, just because I really like the dynamic that you described, right? Diana is functionally a Mary Sue, right? she is extremely competent, and basically she corrects a teacher on the first day of class. She knows time magic and shit. She's way OP. But also especially in that first scene when we get Andrew, we get this hint that she is not nearly as charming and perfect and the role model that everybody holds her up to be, because we see the way that she interacts with this person that everybody's oh, you definitely have to match with him, and they're both just yeah, no, we don't want anything to do with each other. And like you said, I really wish, I think this first season should have been a couple episodes shorter, or at least done an episode that was much more a deep dive into Diana. If they were just gonna do, there's some filler episodes that were not good. But I really was really interested in the way that they portrayed Diana, because it was, in my opinion, was read very sympathetic when Akko, she gets tricked by this mirror, turns her into Diana. for a moment, and like she like looks like Diana, and like for a couple hours she's like wandering around campus, and like in that moment like people start like coming up to her and like, please Diana, can you do this thing for me? Oh Diana, you're so great, can you do this thing for me? And like she starts getting irritated, and I wish they had kind of dug into that more and put a little bit more of a pin on it, because like this show is not subtle generally. Actually, I don't know, the Ursula stuff was kind of subtle, but it takes when you open a thing with like, hey, here's the main theme of my show, it's like, okay, this is going to be like kind of straightforward, but I do wish that they had really hammered home more Diana stuff, because I really like her as a character, and I think that because she's not completely villainized, right? We get moments of empathy, like the very like last scene of the season where Akko and Lotte and Susie are all like standing together and like cheering after they defeat the big ghost. Like they're all in these like bright lights, and like Diana, who is like being told like, oh, you won this Winter Queen, Samhain Queen thing or whatever, like she is like in complete shadow. She is alone except for like the person telling her the message, and it's like I loved the way that they drew that contrast, because it's like, and like Diana like gets like a moment to just like look, like there's no dialogue, she just kind of like looks at Akko, and like I was like, maybe that's a gay thing, maybe they're setting that up, like that's kind of the way that I interpreted it, but also like even if it's not, I just really like Diana a lot. I think she is like she's like Satsuki Kiriing, but like not sexualized, which is ideal in my opinion.
Yeah. I like Diana, but she does annoy me in the way she's supposed to annoy me.
Yes,
in that like rich girl kind of way. Speaking of rich kids,
here we go.
Andrew's on my shit list constantly.
This motherfucker.
I do like his introduction, because everyone's like, ooh, the prime minister, whatever the fuck, the senator's handsome.
He's a count.
The count's a handsome son, and everyone's like, ooh, so handsome, I can't wait to meet him. And then we meet him, and he's some like a lawyer looking motherfucker. He's just small. And like
he looks like a lot of kids I knew at my private Catholic high school, which is to say, like, is going to get their law degree paid by their parents. Which, like, listen, I can't throw shade because of the way that my parents financed my education, but like, very much like, oh yeah, like he's just one of those guys, and like he's very plain. And I think both me and Leyla were like, is this what attractive is?
Yeah, right. Especially like for Trigger, who they like. Listen, Shiro from BNA, call me. Like, I don't know how else to put that. Like, that is a handsome, sad wolf. And
hold on. If the Count was like had a sad backstory, would that do it for you?
No, that would not at all do it, because he's mean to Akko.
Yeah, no, because he fucking sucks.
Like, he does get. I love when dignified characters get put into undignified situations, and Akko does accidentally turn him into like a donkey man, which I thought was very funny. Mm-hmm. He does get a good. Like, here's the thing: every time he enters a scene, he sucks shit. He's mean to Akko. He, like, kicked her out of his rich people party. He's like, oh, you weren't invited. Which, like, bitch, y'all just had some bonding times. I don't understand why you're so mean to her again all of a sudden. And he's just, like, pretentious and cold. And his friend Frank is always just like, bro, you gotta lighten up. And he won't. He's a daddy's boy because his dad hates witches or whatever. We do get moments of, like, he used to play the piano and, like, the only reason he doesn't is because his dad told him to stop, and he, like, didn't question it. But Akko was like, you're a fucking coward. And I think he, like, internalized part of that. And it gets, like his momentum is so slow. But I think my favorite scene with him is when they're running from that bear, and Akko's, like, hanging onto him by his belt, and they're, like, hanging off a precipice, and she's, like, pulling his pants down, and she's like, I'm so sorry, and he's like, it's fine, and she's like, you probably think I planned this, and he's like, no, I promise you, I don't. There's, like, no fucking way, statistically, you could have planned this instance.
Hey, straight up, if you had built a Rube Goldberg machine, it would have been more likely to have worked than this instance. Like, that's such a fucking good moment. I loved that. It's really good. But like, here's the thing about Andrew. I really liked him in episode 6 when they introduce him, and like he has this weird dynamic with Diana, and like he's like finds himself fascinated by Akko. In episode 10, he fucking sucks. Because like this is the one where like he, the bee goes around and stings them, and Andrew is just like, he gets stung, and like, oh, he falls in love with Akko, and like, okay, sure, right? Maybe like, Akko is suddenly flustered because this guy that she has complicated feelings about, is all of a sudden professing his love, like, right? Because previously he was about to kick her out of his this party because of his dad. And like, but all of a sudden, she's flustered and they run around. But like there's that really cool moment where he's caught between this like, love for Akko and his like loyalty to his father. And there's like a really cool moment about the piano. And like, I really loved that piano moment. Because like, cause his dad was like, I told you to, stop playing the piano 10 years ago. Because like you shouldn't do frivolous things. And then Akko's just like, why don't you stand up to your dad? And then he goes and he's like, you know what, you're right. And like Akko is like trying to chase this bee around. And like in front of this ballroom of all these like, normie like dignitaries, he's like, listen, there's a witch here. She's going to help us catch this like, dangerous bee. But while she does that, let me play you the Flight of the Bumblebee on this piano, which is like a really, really good moment of characterization. I really like that moment. It fucking slaps, because of the ways in which it shows that, like, he's not just a daddy's boy, listens to whatever his dad says. He is, not just going to listen to, there is a way for him to compromise. And then once the bee is killed, he immediately makes this turn, and it sucks ass, especially because of the translation. So in the translation, because I had the, translation from Japanese on, like I was watching it subbed or dubbed in English, but with the subtitles of the Japanese English. Yeah.
Same.
Okay. So like, did you notice that like there are some like weird differences? Like,
it's just a mouth flaps thing. Like if you were to put that dialogue to that animation, the mouth flaps wouldn't match up.
Okay.
So they have to change the wording to get it as close as they can. It does like sometimes it's odd, and sometimes I'm like, are we sure those mouth flaps didn't fit? But like it's a technical thing. It's not like a translation thing.
Okay. Because like the wording, like in episode 6, like when he's talking to his dad, and his dad's like, well, I think witches are basically useless, but he says in English, it's important to, earn political allies. The Japanese text says it's important to keep your opponents close, which is like, okay, those are wildly different meanings. And in this episode 10, when he's confronting Akko after the bee is killed, he's like, I want you to get out, like, and she's like, oh, like you don't think that I'm great or whatever. I don't remember what she says, but basically in English he says, I work hard, unlike you. In Japanese he says, I'm civilized, unlike you, which like that is wildly different. So like I'm sure you're right. I'm sure it is a translation thing, but anytime I see that word, the hair on the back of my neck stands up. So
yeah.
Like it definitely colored my opinion of him.
There's a lot of there's a lot of layers of translation and context and cultural context there that like we're obviously not getting. So I try to give things like that the benefit of the doubt, but Andrew is a rare rich boy that I am not immediately rooting for. Isn't that wild?
I mean, he sucks a lot.
He does, but I've defended some sucky motherfuckers on this program.
I suppose that's true.
Next up is the fucking Bandit Keith's stepdaughter, Amanda O'Neill.
USA baby. So I hate to do fucking shipping here, but like it seemed like you and both. I mean, I think both of us were like, "Hey, are they gonna make Amanda and and Akko like an item?
Well, you see, okay, so let's look at the history of Trigger. Kill la Kill ends in lesbians. Promare is a movie about queers. They're gay. They
Two
kiss.
men that kiss and they like it.
Yeah, let's just keep it there. And then BNA ends in lesbians. So, like, I'm always primed for... Do you not remember? She gets together with her childhood friend.
Oh, yeah. Man, we've done so much media for this program. Holy shit. No, you're right.
So when a trigger property, I'm always primed for queerness. Like, I'm always ready to come in and witness some queer behavior. So like when Amanda and Akko like kind of overcame their little spat that they had, and they did their little handshake, and Amanda was like so quick to save Akko from danger a couple of times. I'm like, is this our queer couple? But then like Akko has some romantic vibes with Andrew, so I'm like truly unsure, because Amanda was pretty absent from the second half of the season.
Yeah, I really, again, like a thing where they could have cut a whole one of those filler episodes and done something more interesting with one of their side characters, because like we get introduced to Amanda with the shackled broom. Like there's a cool relay race, and Amanda like steals this like evil broom that like, you know, only like the best pilots can fly or whatever, and like she's, you know, the best, you know, flyer. I really like Amanda. I think she's a very interesting character, because like she could be, you know, the number one, you know, flyer at school, but like she flies too recklessly, and you know, like that's why she gets like C's in that class, is because the teacher's like, why aren't you just, you know, why don't you just like calm down and like play it safe? And she's like, I don't want to do that. And like both her and you know, and Akko in the beginning are set up as like they say the word try hard, but I don't think that's right. I think that they should have used a different word, because I don't think either of them, I guess Akko is a little bit of a try hard, but you know, Amanda certainly is not. But like, I really liked, you know, Amanda is a very interesting character in her relationship to like what she wants. It's just like, she just wants to like fucking fly brooms and do 6 stunts. And like, but also is like when, you know, she helps, you know, she also is like, you know, fuck Diana, you know. I really wish we got more of like the other kids, because like Diana, like everybody like loves Diana, but like there would absolutely be like a group of people that was like, you know, everybody Diana fucking sucks, like. And I wish we got more of that. There are some background characters I wish we got more fleshed out, like fucking Constance Amelie von Braunschweig Ausbrecher, who I only bring up because she does have a rocket propelled grenade. But yeah, Amanda is one of those characters I wish we got more of.
So we're in the shout out section. I do want to shout out the finance dragon. He's fantastic, because like as soon as he gets revealed to be this like crotchety old man, he just has like a billion monitors monitoring stocks, which I think is really great.
So good, right? Because the whole thing is that like, oh, they stole the magic stone that gives them their magic powers. The dragons did. So like, you know, Akko and Amanda try to do this break into this castle. And, you know, they're like, oh, no, the dragon's going to eat us, and he's got all our friends. And the dragon's like, no, I don't care about you. Did the school send you with my money? And they're like, wait, well, what money? And it's like, it's a theme that's revealed, is that, like, the school is going broke. Like, that's why...
Put a pin in that.
Yeah, think about that, because, like, that's originally why Akko got accepted in theory. That's a rumor. I don't know if that's true or not, but, like...
Put a second pin in that.
Yeah, the theory is that, like, Akko got accepted to this school because they're running on hard times and they're just letting anybody in. But like in this instance where they talk to the dragon, they're like, hey, we are making 1/10 of what we made in the golden age of they don't say animation, but the golden age of magic.
Yeah,
and
that's the second pin. Let's keep it.
Yeah, and he's like, I don't care. He has this fucking... He looks like... What's the man from Mass Effect 2? It's not the elusive man, the Shadow Broker. He looks like the Shadow Broker from Mass Effect 2 with this fucking huge screen full of, like, stocks. And I was just like, oh my god, it's so funny. Like, this dude 100% is deep into Bitcoin. Just the fucking funniest reveal. And they're all like, please, Mr. Dragon, spare us. You have so much money. He's like, yeah, you know, there's not magic is with science. Magic. You don't need magic anymore. Me and you. Witches and dragons. They're not going to need us anymore because they got we got the blockchain. we got CGI in the blockchain, baby. Anyway, Crypto Dragon rules. I loved Crypto Dragon so much.
Yeah, and then you also have a shout out for Great Ben 8103 from the
episode 4. Yeah, this is just like a cosplay person that like is Lote's like internet friend. They both show up at essentially DashCon, and they are dressed like a giant Big Ben. It fucking rules. I just love the idea that's like they're both they just put an entire character that in a. They never reveal their face. It's just a person in a Big Ben outfit. And it's like, yeah, you know what? That person would be getting extreme props at the cons. Shout outs to Great Ben 8103. Yeah.
And I think that's it. Those are our characters.
Yeah, it only took us 40 minutes to talk about.
Listen, there's a lot of good ones. We have to talk about how much we love Lotte. It's important.
Yeah, well, I'm glad we spent all the time. Like, listen, the fact that we were able to talk for 40 minutes about the characters alone lets you know that this is a substantive property. And so when we get into the criticism portion, know that we are doing it, genuinely with love in our hearts. So, but Leyla, they bring up at the very end, they talk about how the 9 old witches, OLDE, founded Luna Nova Academy. And I was like, okay, that's a weird thing to bring up, but sure. And Leyla was like, oh, this is a reference to something in their notes. And Leyla, why don't you break this down for me? Because I had never heard of this thing.
Hi. So Little Witch Academia is a show about 2D animation. 9 Old Witches is, I think it would be such an insane coincidence if it's not what they meant. It's a reference to Disney's 9 Old Men, which is just like a group of like animators, like original old hat names in the Disney studio who like founded the legacy, basically. And they worked in shorthand features, and it features people like, if you know animation, you'll know Milt Kahl, Mark Davis, Ward Kimball, Frank Thomas. Like those are like more famous names from that group. They worked on things like Lady and the Tramp, Cinderella, Pinocchio. Like they're really like, when you think of Disney's golden age, you really think of the 9 Old Men. And I had kind of like been getting like an inkling that there's some like meta conversation about animation happening in this show. But like when Diana busted, she's like, I need a book on the 9 Old Witches. I'm like, there's no way that's not a reference to 9 Old Men. And the reason I was starting to kind of think it was a show about animation was because there's a moment where Andrew asks Akko, he's like, okay, well, what is the benefit of magic? Like, what can magic do that science can't? Like name one thing. And Akko, like, genuinely struggled. She struggled to name something that magic could do better than science. But eventually she comes to the conclusion that there's some things only magic can do. And just because it isn't necessary stuff like science doesn't mean it doesn't like bring joy to people, which is her whole thing. She wants to be an entertainer. And there was that finance dragon who was talking about the bottom line a lot, and the school is in a lot of financial trouble. And there's a lot of like talk about just like the uniqueness of magic in this context, and like the fact that it does things in a special way. And like, listen, again, Studio Trigger, friends of the pod, like, we talk a lot about how, their properties, and they're all 2D. Like, Premiere uses 3D, but Trigger is a 2D studio. Like, they specialize in 2D animation. And, just because the American monopoly is very Disney-focused and very 3D animation-focused doesn't mean that that's the case in the global animation market. France and Japan, for example, still putting out a lot of 2D properties. So, the 9 Old Witches thing really set me off on that train of thought. And
like here's the thing, like it completely makes sense if you think about the through line that Luna Nova is running out of money. Like they set it up in the very first episode, and it is a continuing through line. You know, they talk about how, you know, there's a bit where it's like, oh well, you know, Akko got caught stealing a tart, because like she was like, the food you guys give us is bad, and they're like, well, we can't afford better food. It's like, oh, things are really bad here at old LNA, and like, you know, it becomes a thing like constantly, like there's all these, like, you know, the stuff with Andrew and his shitty dad. They're like, you know, like you said, science is taking over, right? We don't need these people anymore. Like even at the very end, all these old people that like judge this contest, the Samhain festival every year, they're like, oh man, this festival is lame every year, it's so boring. You know, and like they finally get brought around to it by our protagonists, and Diana, of course. But like I'm not sure what kind of message they're trying to impart about animation, but there is definitely a clear through line that's like, you know, I don't know if you could talk about this, Leyla, but like the new deal for animation is a thing that's been going around. I've seen on Twitter, but like it seems like, you know, the animation industry, you know, even back in 2017 when this came out 5 fucking years ago, good Lord, you know, was struggling, right? And I hope that, you know, as you know, we see a sweeping wave of unionization across the United States, like we're going to start to get better working conditions. But like, yeah, I think that it is impossible not to see this direct through line.
I mean, I think it's a very specific message, which is it's a fight against the notion that 2D specifically is antiquated and useless, because it doesn't shy away from calling magic, quote unquote, 2D animation as something that's antiquated and takes a lot of effort and maybe isn't as efficient, or you know, does things that are maybe redundant to like newer ways of doing stuff. But it does rely on the fact that there's some things that only magic can do, in the sense of like some things that it does in a very special way, or a very specific joy it brings to people. So I think it's very specifically about that like anti-modernization, almost not anti-modernization, that's a bad way to put it, but like this resistance against 3D being king, because there should be room for 2D in the market. But you know, you brought up the new deal for animation, you know, just like a PSA for people if you don't know about it. It's literally just a lot of animators are getting mistreated, especially by streaming giants, which this was, you know, would have been a bold move considering this is a Netflix exclusive. But streaming giants will order multiple seasons of television shows all at once for very low rates, you know, asking for the lowest bidder from animation studios. You know, that's how the conditions under which like Voltron was made, for example, you know, ordering multiple seasons. Animators are just not getting a fair deal because their union contracts are not inclusive of quote unquote new media. So there's a big rally now to make sure that the streaming giants, which are making bank, and let's remember the animation industry kept the entire Hollywood industry solvent through COVID when no one could film, and it had to be animation because that you could actually make animation from home. You know, it's animators arguing for fair pay. If you didn't know, by the way, like animators, live action people get residuals from their work. So if you make a movie and that movie makes any amount of money, you, like a union grip, will continue to get residuals. I mean, depending on the union contract. I don't want to be, you know, if I'm wrong about that, let me know. But like I know my friend gets residuals checks who works in live action. Animators don't. I've made 2 seasons of the TV show. I've not gotten a single penny after my salary and my contract has been over.
Shit, yeah. Yeah. And lastly, you know, to cap it off, the whole show hinges on like a focus on, you know, how you cannot achieve success alone. Like camaraderie is really the way. Camaraderie and mentorship is the way to be like, successful.
Both of those. It's not an and or. It's camaraderie and mentorship.
And you know, excellent, great points, Leyla. Anyway, time for me to get in my fucking curmudgeon corner. So let's talk about who this is for, because we always say, like, you know, we always have this conversation, but like I think you're going to be able to drill down who the audience for this was better than I can.
It's kids.
You really think this is a kids show?
I think it's a kids show made by the same people who made Kill la Kill.
That is, it's just so hard for me to, right? Because there are just some moments that are very scary, and like there are these little subtle bits, like the thing with Ursula's hair, like the thing with Diana, like.
Kids can pick up on subtle stuff.
I guess that's true. I think I'm sure you're right. You know, I just like it. Just seems like there are just some weird tonal shifts at times. So I was like especially with the ghost in the cavern, right? The one that like there's a lot of ghosts in this episode in this show, but like the one that first presents itself as Chariot and then turns into a big scary ghost and then is actually just like a tree teacher. But like I that sequence I thought was like pretty scary. Like and like I know maybe I'm just like I'm personally a very sensitive person, so like maybe that's why maybe I'm just like hypersensitive, but like if I was a kid that would scare the shit out of me.
I grew up on The Secret of NIMH, baby. That owl is so... Have you ever seen that movie?
Yeah, but I think I saw it too young to remember it.
Okay, I think we should maybe consider watching it for this program.
I think, yeah, we gotta. I'm gonna put it on the list.
That owl is fucking scary. There is a time, like, the mice get injured. It is very scary. Like, kids can handle scary. Do you remember Courage the Cowardly Dog? Terrifying.
Okay, actually, good point. That's a fucking horror show.
Yeah, so like kids can like Goosebumps. You know what I mean? Kids can handle. I think you and I are very sensitive, very caring people, and I think we're very protective of like. We've had these streaks before, right? Where we're like, oh, this is for kids. Like, are we sure? Or like younger characters, even where we're like, these are our children, kind of thing. I think we got to remember that like kids can handle that shit. But this is like definitely for kids. I think the thing is, it's a show for kids by people who are inexperienced with children's media.
That is an excellent way to put it. I think that is a very good way to frame this, because like, you know, despite the weird tonal stuff, despite like all the references that are absolutely not meant to be gotten by kids, but like maybe their parents who are watching, I think you're right, because this is ultimately a kids show, and like that part just grated on me so much, and like might have been the original reason I bounced off, because like I took the relationships at face value, and like I bet you there's like, you know, some fucking like, you know, 8 to 4-year-olds who love Lotte, or not Lotte. I think
it's a little older than that. I think it's like probably middle school age, like 9 to 14 probably.
Okay, that makes more sense to me, because I was gonna say like this is probably, you're right. I think it like tweens, like going into like early teens. That's a very good frame, because like, you know, still young enough to like be like, okay, cartoons are fun, but like trying to get into those more complex themes. Yeah, no, I think you're right. We are old people, and it's been so long since I worked with kids. Kids are resilient. They shouldn't necessarily have to be. But kids are way tougher, especially when it comes to media, than I think that I remember being. I was a stupid kid though, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like I watched some wild shit when I was a kid. I mean, I watched Teen Yasha in the 3rd grade, for crying out loud. You know what I mean? And there's some violence in that show. There's some spooky shit. I watched Secret of NIMH when I was a little girl. I honestly like the forest sequence in Snow White is pretty fucking scary to a kid.
That's true.
But yeah, I think the thing when we say kids media, I think it's valuable to remember that there's a lot of subsections of that. Like kids media could be anything from like 0 to 16. And, you know, preschool is its own subsection, elementary is its own subsection, like 9 to 13 is its own subsection. Like there's a lot of like facets, and I think it fits pretty nice into the like middle school age show. But again, because like, okay, so like in the Bee Affection episode, right, this stood out to me. First of all, very funny gag that Diana falls in love with herself because she falls in front of a mirror. Mm-hmm. Like, I also love that the like love vision isn't everyone all sexy. It's like uncomfortably Bishonen. Like everyone just becomes really square and their eyes become really, really shiny. Like
and they get the sparkles, yeah.
Yeah, it's like truly like a very funny reference to like 90s Bishonen, but like Andrew's dad gets stung and falls in love with Akko. Like it just
yeah. So this is where we have to put Studio Trigger in jail for a moment, because this episode had some shit in it, and I don't trust Studio Trigger. This is why. Like I was like, is this for kids? Because there's a lot of stuff in this particular episode that I was like, I don't know that we should normalize this for kids.
Well, these are the people, I mean, like, again, Yo-Yo Shinari, like, this is the man who worked on Evangelion, where if you remember...
yeah, fucking Ava, yeah.
Yeah, and Ava fucking, what's-her-face, kisses Shinji on the mouth.
Yeah.
And it's basically
Misato.
Like, we'll fuck later, yeah.
Yeah, which is, not great. The stuff with Rei, not incredible.
Bad, awful.
Rei and Gendo. Rei and
Terrible.
Gendo stuff is very bad. And, like, I don't trust, like, famously, right? Like, I don't, it's been so long since I listened to our first episode where I was like, but I suspect we both brought up the fact that, like, you have to age anime characters up 5 years.
Which is tricky in a school setting like this.
Yes, right.
Like, you can do it with, like, Sailor Moon, and, like, Kill la Kill's a school, but, like, is it really? You know what I mean? It's more like a...
It's not. It's a fascist state.
But, like, Sailor Moon, they're never in school. Like, you don't need to worry about them. But, like, I agree with you. It's you gotta age them up sometimes.
But, like, there are, like, a couple things that really made me frustrated, right? Because, so, like, when they're shopping for dresses to go to this ball that Andrew's, getting held in Andrew's honor, they, like, do this thing. They go to this local place, and they're like, oh, okay, well, what outfits can we afford? And, like, they show, like, an outfit that, like, disintegrates. They give them, like, a baby outfit. Like, not like, a diaper, thank Christ, but, like, like a onesie you would give for a little infant, and they're like, this is way too small. And then they do this thing where they bring out, which is it's a Playboy bunny outfit, and they in the shot previous, because I checked, because I was like, there's no way they fucking did this. Akko does not have fucking bunny ears. And in the next shot, she has the bunny ears, and it's a Playboy bunny outfit. And I was like, y'all, are you sure about this? They're children. And I just, right, we are sliding on the edge of moral panic here in the United States. And I don't want to be a person to contribute to that. But, like, I don't like that. I think it's not great. And I don't trust Studio Trigger with their history.
I think we do a really good job, especially lately, of distinguishing between... holy shit, this is awful, how can you do this? Mm-hmm. And guys, come on. And this is very like a guys, come on. Like,
yes, like it's gross and it was unnecessary, and like what are you doing, guys?
It is a joke made by people who are not accustomed to making children's media. That's not a defense of it, that's just what it is. Like, again,
I really feel so bad about the one time we went really, really hard on fucking not Shadow and Bone.
Crooked Kingdom?
Crooked Kingdom. Not the other one, the first one.
Six of Crows.
Six of Crows. I feel so terrible about Six of Crows, and, like, we've grown so much since then. But, like, I do feel like this is something we should, call out. I think it deserves to be noted, but we shouldn't fucking burn Studio Trigger at the stake. Like I said.
I don't think we're anywhere close to doing that. It's very, again, just like...
It's just bad. And then when you follow it up with there's a very brief moment where an adult man falls in love with the 16-year-old. Like, it's like, again, it's for kids. Like, I'm sure kids might think that's funny, but, I mean,
at the very least, they didn't play it in earnestness like they did with Andrew. Like, it's very much played for comedy, where you could read
that's a good point.
You could read it as, like, Akko, like, he starts to look at her, he doesn't even get the full chance to, like, have the spell affect him, and then Akko smacks him in the forehead with that fucking feather duster.
Yes.
And, like, I think it's meant to elicit, like, a ew, gross reaction from kids, but, like, I feel like, as adults, it makes us clench our ass a little bit in good fairness.
I think that's the best, like, again, we want to rate it, talking about these things with, good intent. We are assuming good intent, although Studio Trigger, like we said, I think they're on thin ice.
Studio Trigger, listen, they deserve, excellent animation, very interesting stories. Sometimes choices are made. Yes. As a stan, I am more than willing to admit that occasionally choices are made.
Also, just like the fact that this started as like a fucking 26-minute thing in 2013, and then it got partially crowdfunded in 2015, and then Netflix released this in 2017. The world is very different now than it was 5 years ago. So we are bringing 5 years of cultural perspective and change in conversation to this. So I don't brand new Animal, none of this stuff came up whatsoever.
Yeah, exactly.
So I again, they have learned and changed as well. So I don't want to fall back on the it was a different time defense, but
it's not a defense. It's just an acknowledgement. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It is what it is. But yeah, even Kill la Kill, I try to be very generous of remembering that it was 10 years ago, and those 17-year-olds are showing a lot of underboob, and it's gross, but I think if I was this age in 2012, I wouldn't have thought anything of it.
Yeah, no, it is nowhere near as bad as Kill la Kill.
Which I still stand by Kill la Kill with the full. I can't in good conscience recommend it to anybody that isn't you, because I just I live to torment you a little bit, but
yeah, that's this podcast's goal.
But I myself am happy to rewatch it because I think it's goofy. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I'm not sexualizing the teens.
Yeah, I would not look twice at somebody who's I think Little Witch Academia is my favorite, media property for kids. I would not love to hang out with somebody who's no, Kill la Kill is my favorite media property, of my favorite anime. I'd be oh, I don't know, Chief.
That's what I say about Evangelion also, as
yes, exactly. I don't know
how much I've talked about my emotional arc with Evangelion on the show, but I very complicated, very nuanced feelings on that property, and sometimes I want to buy an art book so bad. I saw the 3.33 art book at Kinokuniya when I went to on a trip to Austin last week or 2 weeks ago. Last week, whatever, doesn't matter. Week and a half ago. And I swear to God, I was about to buy it. I was so close to buying it. And then I thought about it, and I was if I walked into someone's house and I saw Evangelion paraphernalia, I would be incredibly concerned. I would have some very specific questions to ask. So, same.
I'm going to get you that art book, and I'm going to get you a book cover to go over it that just says,
get me
principles of normal animation. Don't look at this.
Get me one of those stretchy middle school camo book covers.
That is the only appropriate way to display your Evangelion paraphernalia, is if you censor it in your own household. Actually, you know what? You can do whatever you want in your own household, but if there are guests coming over, just make sure that you cover your Evangelion paraphernalia.
God, I swear to God, if I ever come to visit your house, I'm gonna hide some fucking
no, please,
some Kill la Kill Nendoroids somewhere.
My parents are gonna come over and be this is a very artsy figurine of Satsuki Kiririn, and I'm gonna be oh no, I have to change my name.
That's okay. There's a book on my shelf called My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness, and I am very waiting for my mom to find it.
One day.
Okay, I think we've fully lost the plot.
Yes, no, we spiraled, but this is a good conversation nonetheless. I do think we all come down pretty positive on Little Witch Academia. I'm glad that we have this project that's you know what? I did mainline 8 episodes of this today. So I'm glad that I have this project that just makes me finish media properties, because otherwise I would just bounce off of it, and I am better for having watched LWA. So thank you, Leyla.
It was your recommendation. Thank yourself.
And thank you to me, of course, for inflicting this upon myself. I'm a moron. When we are not inflicting media upon each other on recordings, Where can you find us inflicting media upon other people on the internet?
Hi, you can find me at LEYLSES on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram. I just wrote an essay about interesting narrative choices in musicals. I talk about how the changes in the film adaptation of In the Heights I have some questions about, and I talk a little bit about Josh Groban's casting and Natasha Pierre in The Great Comet of 1812, and the choice to make the villain in Anastasia the Communist Party, even though Anastasia is never historically accurate to begin with. I know it sounds weird and niche, but I swear to you, it can apply to all of storytelling. Please read my essay. It's good.
Listen, I read it. I've never seen any of those musicals, and I still had a good time. You can find me on Twitter at AaronSXL, where I tweet about tabletop, RPGs, health policy, and writing stuff. I just released an essay on my personal website, that's aavoigt.com, about craft, about the tipping point, the point where it's just like, I gotta tell, we're done with showing, which like in writing is much more difficult than in visual media, because like I want to say Little Witch Academia does a pretty good job of not loading you down with backstory. Shout outs. But yeah, if you're interested in like a writing craft thing, I'm not a published author really, so like take it all with a grain of salt. But I had a good time writing that.
And I think it's time to add a line to our outro. You can find both of us again on our new bi-weekly show, Simple and Green, a guided introduction to Kingdom Hearts, which we do with our friend Josh Green.
Yes, me and Josh's brother Michael also do a podcast called Bible Boys, and we're going to be we talked about the Eyes of Tammy Faye last week, and I think we're going to talk about an interview with God this week, so that'll be pretty wild. Check that out. Josh and Michael are good people, and Simple and Green is going to be buck wild. Our theme song is obsolete by Keshko from the album Filmmakers Reference Kit Volume 2. You can find more of their music at keshko.bandcamp.com. Leyla, what do we say to
Aaron, fuck, I can't think of anything, and shit, you must think I planned this.
I really, really don't. We'll see you all next week.